Hi, friends. Yeah, she wears glasses sometimes. Not always. The vision kind of changes, comes and goes. Been doing weird things for a couple of years now. I figure it'll settle down eventually. Who knows what's going on? May even have something to do with the endocrine system coming online. You know, when the chakras activate, they're associated with the various endocrine glands, like the pineal and the pituitary. The association with the third eye, and so on and so on. Okay, um, this will seem rather mundane to some, but I wanted to share a couple of things. One of them is I've mentioned the Bach flower remedies on a number of occasions. I'll give you a link to go with this where you can see the explanations. There are 38 flower essences, and they're just little vials, 20 milliliters or 10 milliliters. They're not a lot. Little dropper bottles, amber bottles, and the essence in them is most powerful. Now you'd think with a little bottle like that, I think even 20 milliliters is less than an ounce. I'm not good with cross comparisons that way, but these things will last you for years. And I'll even give you a link to where I buy them, luckyvitamin.com, and you can save a good bit there. They're $10 or $11 a piece for a bottle. And right now, considering all we're going through and how grueling it's been, I think everybody could do with some walnut. And just a thumbnail sketch of walnut for protection and constancy against outside influences during major periods of transition, such as moving, breaking old or forming new relationships, changing jobs, etc. Well, I would say ascending qualifies as a major transition, wouldn't you? I've only been taking it for, gosh, is it one day? Either one or two, and I already feel a certain steadiness. These are very subtle. These are essences. There's no fragrance to them or anything. They have a wee bit of alcohol in there as preservative. So if you have problems with that, I guess that might be an issue for you. But there are only 38. So I thought I would read just 2 or 3 of the little descriptions. Red chestnut is for those who are over anxious for the safety and well-being of others, often neglecting their own needs. Now, I think most of us know somebody like this, and might you be that somebody? Star of Bethlehem, for the great distress brought about by trauma, for the mental emotional effects surrounding the shock resulting from accidents, serious news, loss of someone dear, etc. And this one, sweet chestnut, is for unbearable anguish. When mind or body seems to have reached the outermost limit of endurance, when all that seems to remain is destruction and annihilation. And then, as I've mentioned before, I've been taking water violet, which is for those who are independent, aloof, and self-reliant, preferring to be alone, even in times of trouble and illness. Now, not that that's too much of a problem, but balance. We seek balance. And so gorse is for great hopelessness. Beech is for those who need to be more tolerant and understanding of the ways of others. These are beautiful. Okay, how do the little vials last for years? Well, you get yourself an empty dropper bottle, 1 or 2 ounces. I like to work with the 2-ounce bottles. And you put purified water in it. And then you take your Bach flower remedy that you bought, and you only put 2 drops of it in there. That's it. And that bottle is your treatment bottle. That's what you use. And out of that bottle, they say to take 4 drops in any liquid that you drink. And so there's 4 drops in the coffee, 4 drops in the juice, 4 drops in the soup, 4 drops, and I put drops in my water that I drink as well. The basic dosage is 4 drops 4 times a day. As long as you do that as the minimum, you get the benefits that are there for you. And you can combine them. You don't have to take just one. This is the first time I've ever put together a remedy that only had one of the flower essences in it. And your inner self will work with you and will tell you what's next. You know, what's the next best thing. I already have 4 set out so that when this bottle runs dry, and it's getting there, my next remedy will be prepared with 2 drops each from those 4 bottles. So just a little thumbnail sketch in case you'd heard these things mentioned and didn't really know what it was all about. It's not a very expensive thing, considering you're only using, you know, a couple of drops at a time. Your $10 or $11 investment in the bottle can easily last you years, because you're not going to be taking that same remedy solidly for a very long time. You will shift. It will move you. It doesn't keep you dependent as pharmaceuticals do. These things are great movers of energy. Now, disclaimer. I'm one of the biggest know-nothings on these that there is. I'm only sharing my very limited experience with it. I find it that helpful, though, that I did want to share. Now, I have another one for you. What are your ideas around coffee? Now, I'm not a fanatic about anything. I do drink coffee. I get it organic. I try to get it organic, not 100% of the time. And I flavor it. And I've been putting either coconut milk or coconut oil. So I'm used to having a spoon because the oil will be on top. And I find it very pleasant and not noxious in any way. And believe it or not, I have been using the Coffee Mate flavors. All right, I told you, not a fanatic about anything. And so coconut cream was my favorite. Just call me a coconut addict, I'll answer. Well, have you heard of how good cod liver oil is for you? When's the last time you had some? When's the last time you had some that was drinkable? I found a really neat thing. Again, at luckyvitamins.com, I found a cod liver oil that was very good. It was properly processed and so on, that is cherry flavored. Now, it is very cherry. So what I did is I bought 2 bottles and combined them, one with just plain Jane cod liver oil and the other one with the cherry, and I put them together in a bigger bottle. I find that to be a great flavoring for my coffee. Isn't that crazy? But let's bust through some ideas about what's normal and what you can do and what you can't. You know, let's get rid of all the barriers, all of the structures inside are coming down. Well, let's help them come down, huh? And so maybe expand around the idea of what makes a good coffee flavoring. You know, like I say, I'm used to having to stir it before every sip anyway because of the coconut oil. So that's no big deal to me. Now, there's one of these in I Am That, one of these short little conversations that I found really shocking. And I wonder if you will too. We hear people. A lot of people are sharing, you know, what their ascension symptoms are, or what their states of consciousness are, or the marvelous things that they've experienced. And we look at that and we say, you know, and then we have our own experience. And, you know, you watch and observe, you wonder, will it ever happen to me? Is it necessary? How important is it? Yada, yada. Okay, so this guy, they've called it All Suffering is Born of Desire. And it shocks me still as I read it. I want you to listen to the state that this guy had reached. and then listen to what comes after it. It's not a long one like before. Questioner. I come from a far-off country. I had some inner experiences of my own, and I'd like to compare notes. Nisargadatta, by all means. Do you know yourself? He says, I know I am not the body, nor am I the mind. And Nisargadatta, what makes you say so? Well, I do not feel I am in the body. I seem to be all over the place, everywhere. And as to the mind, I can switch it on and off, so to say. This makes me feel I am not the mind. Nisargadatta. When you feel yourself everywhere in the world, do you remain separate from the world, or are you the world? Very good question, huh? Both, he says. Sometimes I feel myself to be neither mind nor body, but one single, all-seeing eye. When I go deeper into it, I find myself to be all I see, and the world and myself become one. Now that's quite an experience. Don't try to wrap your mind around it. Your heart, though, can get it. Isn't that wild? Okay, Nisargadatta says, very well then, what about desires? Do you have any? Yes, they come short and superficial. Nisargadatta, and what do you do about them? What can I do? They come, they go. I look at them. Sometimes I see my body and my mind engaged in fulfilling them. Now, this is a really good description of being danced, of being the observer. It's like you're just watching. Nisargadatta says, whose desires are being fulfilled? Good questions, he asks. Answer. They are a part of the world in which I live. They are just as trees and clouds are there. Nisargadatta. Are they not a sign of some imperfection? Questioner. Why should they be? They are as they are, and I am as I am. How can the appearance and disappearance of desires affect me? Of course, they affect the shape and the content of the mind. Nisargadatta. Very well. What is your work? I am a probation officer. What does it mean? Says Nisargadatta. Juvenile offenders are let off on probation, and there are special officers to watch their behavior and to help them get training and find work. Nisargadatta. Must you work? Questioner. Who works? Work happens to take place. Nisargadatta. Do you need to work? Questioner. I need it for the sake of money. I like it because it puts me in touch with living beings. Nisargadatta. What do you need them for? Questioner. They may need me, and it is their destinies that made me take up this work. It is one life after all. Nisargadatta. How did you come to your present state? Questioner. Sri Ramana Maharshi's teachings have put me on my way, and then I met one Douglas Harding, who helped me by showing me how to work on the who am I? Nisargadatta. Was it sudden or gradual? Questioner. It was quite sudden, like something quite forgotten coming back into one's mind, or like a sudden flash of understanding. How simple, I said. How simple. I am not what I thought I am. I'm neither the perceived nor the perceiver. I'm the perceiving only. Nisargadatta. Not even the perceiving, but that which makes all this possible. You see how you get to things here that in any of these that are so deep. Many times I just read a few paragraphs and I'm lost in contemplation. My personal experience is often that I am the perceiving, not the perceiver, and not the perceived, but the watching, not the watcher, because that objectifies it, but the actual watching. And you can see things as only the verb being true. It's being. It's not a beer. It's being. Things being as verbs. And so I've come that far. He says, though, not even the perceiving, but that which makes all this possible. Food for some deep pondering. Okay, so he shifts here. He said, the questioner says, what is love? When the sense of distinction and separation is absent, you may call it love. Gosh, who'd have thunk of an answer like that, huh? He says, why so much stress on love between man and woman? Nisargadatta, because the element of happiness in it is so prominent. Questioner, is it not so in all love? Nisargadatta, not necessarily. Love may cause pain. You then call it compassion. What is happiness, he says? Harmony between the inner and the outer is happiness. Again, who'd have thunk it? On the other hand, self-identification with the outer causes suffering. Questioner, how does self-identification happen? Nisargadatta, the self by its nature knows itself only. For lack of experience, whatever it perceives, it takes to be itself. Battered, it learns to look out and live alone. When right behavior becomes normal, a powerful inner urge makes it seek its source. The candle of the body is lighted, and all becomes clear and bright. And he questions again. He says, what is the real cause of suffering? Nisargadatta, self-identification with the limited. Sensations, as such, however strong, do not cause suffering. It is the mind, bewildered by wrong ideas, addicted to thinking, I am this, I am that fears loss and craves gain and suffers whenever frustrated. Questioner, a friend of mine used to have horrible dreams night after night. Going to sleep would terrorize him. Nothing could help him. Nisargadatta, company of the truly good, satsang, would help him. Questioner, life itself is a nightmare. Nisargadatta, noble friendship, satsang, is the supreme remedy for all ills, physical and mental. Questioner, generally one cannot find such friendship. Nisargadatta, seek within. Your own self is your best friend. Like Mellon Thomas said, your soulmate is yourself. Questioner, why is life full of contradictions? Nisargadatta, it serves to break down mental pride. We must realize how poor and powerless we are. As long as we delude ourselves by what we imagine ourselves to be, to know, to have, to do, we are in a sad plight indeed. Only in complete self-negation is there a chance to discover our real being. Questioner, why so much stress on self-negation? Nisargadatta, as much as on self-realization. The false self must be abandoned before the real self can be found. And this is where this guy blows me away. Questioner, the self you choose to call false is to me most distressingly real. It is the only self I know. What you call the real self is a mere concept, a way of speaking, a creature of the mind, an attractive ghost. My daily self is not a beauty, I admit, but it is my own and only self. You say I am or have another self. Do you see it? Is it a reality for you? Or do you want me to believe what you yourself don't see? Nisargadatta. Don't jump to conclusions rashly. The concrete need not be the real. The conceived need not be false. Perceptions based on sensations and shaped by memory imply a perceiver whose nature you never cared to examine. Give it your full attention. Examine it with loving care, and you will discover heights and depths of being which you did not dream of, engrossed as you are in your puny image of yourself. I mean, isn't that shocking? He's come into states that some of us can only stand back and admire. And yet, it's almost finished. Questioner, I must be in the right mood to examine myself fruitfully. Nisargadatta, you must be serious, intent, truly interested. You must be full of goodwill for yourself. Questioner, I am selfish, all right. Nisargadatta, you are not. You are all the time destroying yourself and your own by serving strange gods, inimical and false. By all means be selfish, the right way. Wish yourself well. Labor at what is good for you. Destroy all that stands between you and happiness. Be all, love all, be happy, make happy. No happiness is greater. He comes back to this. Why is there so much suffering in love? Nisargadatta, all suffering is born of desire. True love is never frustrated. How can the sense of unity be frustrated? What can be frustrated is the desire for expression. Such desire is of the mind. As with all things mental, frustration is inevitable. Questioner, what is the place of sex in love? Nisargadatta, love is a state of being. Sex is energy. Love is wise. Sex is blind. Once the true nature of love and sex is understood, there will be no conflict or confusion. Questioner, there is so much sex without love. Nisargadatta, without love, all is evil. Life itself without love is evil. Questioner, what can make me love? Nisargadatta, you are love itself when you are not afraid. What do you think of that, my friends? Isn't that just amazing? You know, the teachers, they tell us, don't go after this or that state, and don't think that enlightenment comes with bells and whistles and, you know, the states and the experiences, they come and they go. And we've been taught this, we know it, but it's still so shocking to me to find somebody that could be in such expansive states and yet not be in his center, not have it be real. I mean, it isn't real. I guess that's what I find a lot of times in teachers that maybe aren't ready to be teaching. To me, heart is real. And I can easily be overthrown by somebody with a great abilities of mind, great knowledge, and so on. And I'll admit and be the loser every time in that kind of a situation, but it doesn't concern me, because it's not real. Only love is real. It's the heart and soul of everything. And it doesn't take a genius IQ or any of these states or anything else to be the love that I am, that we are. It's just right here. It's right now. It's so beautiful. It's so available. May all beings awaken. May all suffering cease. Namaste. During major periods of transition, such as moving, breaking old or forming new relationships, changing jobs, etc. Well, I would say ascending qualifies as a major transition, wouldn't you? I've only been taking it for, gosh, is it one day? Either one or two, and I already feel a certain steadiness. These are very subtle. I mean, you know, these are essences. There's no fragrance to them or anything. They have a wee bit of alcohol in there as preservative. So if you have problems with that, I guess that might be an issue for you. But there are only 38. So I thought I would read just 2 or 3 of the little descriptions. Hi, friends. Yeah, she wears glasses sometimes. Not always. The vision kind of changes, comes and goes. Been doing weird things for a couple of years now. I figure it'll settle down eventually. Who knows what's going on? May even have something to do with the endocrine system coming online. You know, when the chakras activate, they're associated with the various endocrine glands, like the pineal and the pituitary, the association with the third eye, and so on and so on. Okay. This will seem rather mundane to some, but I wanted to share a couple of things. One of them is I've mentioned the Bach flower remedies on a number of occasions. I'll give you a link to go with this where you can see the explanations. There are 38 flower essences, and they're just little vials, 20 milliliters or 10 milliliters. They're not a lot. Little dropper bottles, amber bottles, and the essence in them is most powerful. Now you'd think with a little bottle like that, I mean, I think even 20 milliliters is less than an ounce. I'm not good with cross comparisons that way, but these things will last you for years. And I'll even give you a link to where I buy them, luckyvitamin.com, and you can save a good bit there. They're $10 or $11 a piece for a bottle. And right now, considering all we're going through and how grueling it's been, I think everybody could do with some walnut. And just a thumbnail sketch of walnut. For protection and constancy against outside influences, red chestnut is for those who are over anxious for the safety and well-being of others, often neglecting their own needs. Now, I think most of us know somebody like this, and might you be that somebody? Star of Bethlehem, for the great distress brought about by trauma, for the mental emotional effects surrounding the shock resulting from accidents, serious news, loss of someone dear, etc. And this one, sweet chestnut, is for unbearable anguish. When mind or body seems to have reached the outermost limit of endurance, when all that seems to remain is destruction and annihilation.